All right, welcome to our meeting of the Cobb County Board of Elections. And today we're going to have some new board members sworn in. But our first item is our time of public comment, which we have before our official meeting. And there's a 5-minute limit per speaker. And I have the list here of those who have signed up.
Hey, Phil.
I think we're going to swear the people in first.
Okay, I didn't get that change on my agenda. Okay, all right. So we'll begin the swearing in process. How do we go on that?
Chairman, we have Judge Kelly Walk here to swear in our new board members, and their terms begin on July 1st. So if our three new board members will come up to the front, and Judge Walk, and we'll do the swearing in.
Coming so they can see you. Didn't get a 4-year degree in TV production for nothing. All right, so we can have you stagger this way so that the cameras can see you and try and make your life easier. How we doing? Okay. There are 2 oaths. I will read them each to you. We'll do the short one as a warm-up. We will do the second longer one. When I get to "So help me God," you can say "uh-huh." We won't make you repeat everything. If you don't want to say "uh-huh," then you need to turn around and talk to Ms. Eveler, because we need to make some changes. So if you all will raise your right hands. Do you state your name? A citizen of Cobb County, and being an employee of Cobb County, and the recipient of public funds for services rendered as such employee, hereby solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Georgia. So help you God. I do. Thank you. Here comes the bigger one. All right. Do you swear or affirm that you will, as a member of the Board of Elections, duly attend all ensuing primaries and elections during the continuousness thereof, and that you will, to the best of your ability, prevent any fraud, deceit, or abuse in carrying on the same, and that you will make a true and perfect return of such primaries and elections, and that you will at all times truly, impartially, and faithfully perform your duties in accordance with the Georgia laws to the best of your judgment and ability. Do you further swear or affirm that you are not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due this state, or any political subdivision or authority thereof, that you are not the holder of any office of trust under the government of the United States, any other state, or any foreign state which you are prohibited from holding by the laws of the state of Georgia, and that you are otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the Constitution of the United States and the laws of Georgia, and that you will support the constitutions of the United States and of this state. So help you God. I do. Thank you all very much. So if you'll come over here, we'll get these signed. Okay.
Chairman, while they do their signing of their oaths, do you want to wait, or do you want to move on to the next item?
We can go ahead and move on to the next item while they're signing their oaths. We now have a time of public comment. There's a 5-minute limit per speaker. We will have those people who have signed up to speak in this public comment time. And our first speaker is Jan Barton. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jan Barton, and I'm here today to tell you that we've lost faith in our election process, and I'll give you several examples. I served as a poll watcher, and I also helped with the recount. I'm just going to share a few things that I observed. I will tell you that as a poll watcher in East Cobb, things moved very smoothly. There were just a couple of procedural items that I think we could tighten up and make us all feel more secure. One is the duplicate ballot. When many people received a ballot they did not request and they wanted to vote in person, so they turned in their ballot, but instead of the ballot going into a secure area, it was just laying out where anyone could pick it up. And that to me is not a totally secure process. The other thing I noticed was that in terms of signs, we know that political signs are not supposed to be close to the actual polling place, and the signs that I had observed when I came in were in correct distance, but someone came along from the county and removed all signs, including the one that said vote here, and it would help people to know that there's a vote here sign out there so they know they're in the right place. So those are a couple of suggestions that I have regarding election integrity there. Then I also served as someone who helped with the recount. I observed in one batch, a batch of totally pristine, flat ballots that were supposed to have been mail-in ballots, but mail-in ballots would have been creased. These were not creased. Because we were kept at a long distance from where they were, I wasn't able to pursue it, except I did make note of the batch. We should really consider going back to hand-marked ballots. They're the most secure way to vote, and we have problems with these election machines. The day that the Senate had inquiries into voter integrity, one of the technical consultants on the case was able to actually hack into the voting system the day of elections. He proved that they are online, and that has been mentioned in several of the other states currently going through the audits, including Arizona. So I'm asking that you make us feel secure in our vote. And one more thing I want to mention, although we received an answer. There was shredding going on at the time of election, and that does not give a very good photo op. It gives us the impression that things were being shredded that shouldn't be, and we know that we're supposed to keep all documentation for 22 months, and that includes any internal envelopes as well. I support the recent new rules from the legislature, and I'm just asking that we do all we can to secure our vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your statement. Our next speaker is Pamela Reardon.
Good afternoon. I'm Pamela Reardon. I live in Marietta, East Cobb. I want to comment on a few things. Two recent things that are very concerning to me. I attended a town hall meeting with the commission chair and head of the BOE, and I was very concerned about a statement that was made that potentially they are already intending on breaking the law by allowing two people to sit at every library and receive absentee ballots during the election. So it's stipulated in SB 202 what and how many drop boxes there can be, and they have to be inside the advanced voting places and not in libraries. Number two, 2 Tuesdays ago, at the Board of Commissioners meeting, I was very concerned about an item that was on the consent agenda, that up to $700,000 was moved from the CTCL, which is Zuckerberg's money, which is now illegal, to be given directly to any of the county's Board of Elections. This money has to go through the State Board of Elections. So also I just want to make a general statement about the fact that I agree mostly with SB 202. I was down at the Capitol testifying. I would have gone further. I wouldn't have allowed any drop boxes because we didn't have those before last year at all. That was an emergency rule, and I'm totally against it. And there was a lot of problems with the drop boxes, and that'll come out shortly. I also thought that we shouldn't have an excuse to do absentee ballots because we have more advanced voting days than we've ever had. And we've also added some in this new bill. So there's plenty of opportunity for people to vote all times of the day, on Saturdays and Sundays. I really don't think we need to hamper our Board of Elections and our employees with the inundation of a lot of extra ballots. I don't know where the timer is, but I'll just, sum up that those three things, generally in support, and the other two things I would like to get an answer on. The two things that I was concerned about from the meeting with taking the CTCL funds or CL funds, and also from adding indiscriminately new drop boxes. Basically, they're going to be drop boxes. If they're not a box, there are people sitting there. I know that, but it's still a drop box. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christine Rosman.
Hi, thank you. I'm Christine Rosman, concerned citizen in Cobb County. And I also was over at Jim Miller Park and witnessed much of the recount. And it was so loosey-goosey because I had actually worked at the Friday before that when it started in Douglas. And it was like a well-oiled machine. It was like going into a Chick-fil-A, the way it was all systemized. And I was really taken aback because it seemed so, like I said, loosey-goosey. I couldn't figure it out. So if I were to say one thing, I would say that, I know it was something new doing a recount like that, but it could have had a lot more structure and system to it because it was very difficult to even track. Oh, you don't have the timer, so you have to tell me when my 5 minutes are up. Also is that, and I understand about like voter suppression, and I'm just curious if there really is voter suppression. I think the voter suppression deals with 3% of Cobb County's eligible voters that, it's like cattle in a haystack, but it might be certain areas of Cobb County where that 3% are more located, and it seems like we could do a good job as a community of educating those voters on here's where to vote, here's your precinct, and instead of making a very, very costly decision to have so much time to vote, just using up our resources to doing this voting. Like if you look at other states, Cobb County is bending over backwards to the voter, more so than New York, more so than Colorado, Delaware. And these are states that are very liberal states. So I think we need to see if it isn't so much if we could do a better job communicating than to have the taxpayers, because from what I understand, the early voting for the 34 election that just happened, there were like 3 people that showed up to vote on early voting. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of money of Cobb County. So you don't have like a full, like it's unlimited amount. Or maybe you do, and maybe you feel like you need to spend that. But I think our resources could be spent elsewhere. And anyway, I'll just close with saying that there's too much belief that there was voter fraud, that happened in 2020 and too much, pretty much hard evidence that there was. And until we figure out 2020, there's really not a 2021 or a 2022. So it's kind of like Bank of America. If somebody went and stole $2 million and they got away, they wouldn't say, darn it, next time we'll catch them. They would be pursuing the $2 million. And I think as this Board of Elections that, our votes there was some hanky-panky that went on. And I hope that you look at it and I get more serious about the voters and what we want as a community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lindsey Sieber.
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for having me. I am an engineer. I work full-time, and I took time off today to be here because I really want to stay involved. I was able to attend and make public comment many times during last year's meetings and earlier this year because the online options were available. I took time off from my job today to be here in person to talk to you about how inconvenient it is to be here in person when there's no online option. My two requests today are to go to a hybrid format that has an online option for public comment as well as an in-person option. And my second request is to go to a 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. meeting time. During the pandemic, as I said, online public comment was used very successfully. Requiring in-person comment is simply not practical for those of us who work full-time and want to remain engaged in our community. Using a hybrid format would meld the best of both worlds and allow us to meet in person, which we're so excited to be able to do again, and allow those of us who work full-time to still provide comment at a time that's more convenient without needing to be here in person. My second request is to make the meetings at a time that's also more convenient. As far as I could tell from looking online at meeting schedules, 4 p.m. has been the time since 2018. 4 p.m. was, at least towards the end of the day, you could maybe slip out from work and make it to a 4 p.m. meeting. 5 p.m. would be better, but 3 p.m. is just smack in the middle of afternoon meeting schedules. Meetings being at 4 or 5 p.m. would also be more convenient. The pandemic is in the rearview mirror, and we are so glad to be back in person, but that doesn't mean we need to forget everything we learned during the pandemic. We learned a lot of very important lessons about doing hybrid format, and we should retain those lessons while still moving forward. So, in conclusion, I urge you to adopt a hybrid format and to evaluate a meeting time that's more convenient for those of us who work full-time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jacqueline Bedapur.
Hello, nice to see you this afternoon, finally face-to-face. I am Jackie Bedapur, the chair of the Cobb County Democratic Committee. I come here today to express serious concern over the advanced voting schedule for the July 13 runoff. As of last Friday, the published schedule on your website stated early vote was July 6th to July 9th from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. 4 days only in the last week before Election Day, no weekend voting, hours not convenient to anyone who commutes to a regular day job. It's a cynical offering, one that only reinforces recent rhetoric about voter suppression by design in Georgia. Yes, the new law dictates a tight turnaround on runoff elections, but you have not even offered as much as you could within the confines of the new law. Your job is to provide voting services to the citizens of Cobb County who have come to know and expect high-quality services from their government. Voting should be no exception. You have fallen significantly short here. I request today in this public forum that you reconsider and expand the early vote schedule to begin on Saturday, June 26th, run through Friday, July 2nd, and then pick up again after the holiday weekend. This adds another full week of access to Cobb voters with Saturday and Sunday voting. To my knowledge, the original schedule was published last week without even consulting the Board of Elections. I've asked around, and that's the answer I've come up with. And when I say published, it was passively posted on the Cobb Elections website. There was apparently some community pushback. Hours were then expanded to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Again, no official public notice. The website was not updated as of last Friday. But somehow the Cobb GOP knew, because they posted on social media last Thursday, that the hours were 7 to 7, but with a photo of the advance voting flyer posted on the Cobb Elections website, still showing 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. This is confusing to voters. It's confusing to the public at large when there is no official statement or communication from Cobb Elections as to what the early vote schedule actually is. All of this is part of a disturbing pattern that we have seen for the last 3 elections. Cobb Elections posts an early vote schedule that falls far short of community expectations without apparently consulting any key stakeholders, such as the Board of Elections. This only feeds the narrative of voter suppression, and it has to stop. We get pushback from the community, and then the early vote schedule changes. It expands, so apparently it was possible from the beginning to offer an expanded service, but it's only offered once you get pushback from the community. So the Board of Elections, at a minimum, needs to be consulted before releasing the schedule publicly. And Cobb Elections needs to offer the most expansive early vote schedule legally possible for each and every election. And if for some reason they cannot, that needs to be explained to the public as to why that expanded early vote cannot be offered. So in conclusion, I state once again in this public forum that the early vote schedule is woefully insufficient, and ask you in this public forum to consider expanding voter access to begin on Saturday, June 26th, to run through July 2nd, and then pick up again after the holiday weekend to run July 6th through July 9th. That is the level of service Cobb citizens expect from their government, the tax-paying citizens of this county. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Samantha, and I'm sorry, but I just can't pronounce the last name, so.
My name's Samantha Kong from Marietta. I'm just here to voice my support for the new voting law. I did want to put in something that I did not appreciate, getting 10 applications for a mail-in ballot. I did not vote by mail. I went to the polling place and voted. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sally Grubbs.
Good afternoon. I very much appreciate being back in person. I'm going to speak quickly because I have a lot of words that need to come out. The first of them is to thank you to Janine for the excellent job, Miss Eveler, for the great job that you're doing. I feel like we're on a first-name basis because we do receive a lot of communications from the elections office, and I personally appreciate that. My name is Sally Grubbs, and I'm the chair of the Cobb Republican Party. Sometimes when I hear the Democrats talk, I think that 364 days a year of voting would not be enough. It's gotten to the point of ridiculous. I remember as a child voting at Bells Ferry Elementary School. I would go with my father, and we would go on the day of the election, and that was it. And if you wanted to vote absentee, you needed to have a notarized statement of your reasoning, and then you would get your absentee ballot. We have gotten to a point in this country where it's beyond ridiculous. Voting is a precious, sacred right. It is something that needs to be revered, and it doesn't need to be the same as filling out a credit card application and sending it back. It needs to be something that time and consideration is given to. Now, I'm a little bit offended today when I see some of the, a newly sworn-in board member and her significant other laughing when the topic of voter integrity comes up, or the travesty that happened out at Jim Miller Park. Now, this is no indictment of Ms. Evler, but there were things that were not right. And there were contracted workers out there that were an issue. The CTCL money is an issue. I remember meeting Ms. Brooks out there, and it was a pleasure meeting you. And I don't want to impugn the integrity of anyone in this room, but I'm here to tell you there were many, many things that were not right, and it's time that we all got real about the shredding that happened out there. It's real, and sir, I'll be glad to show you the video on the phone if you'd like to see it. And the retention period is not 22 months according to federal law, and a federal election is 24 months. So anything that has to do with that election should have been preserved for 20, and it was not. And we cannot go back and recreate the wheel in this situation, but what we can do is protect it going forward. And I'm here to tell you right now, get used to seeing my face. When we did the Zoom meetings, that was great and convenient for everyone, but guess what? They always have the option, and I agree with you, it's great to have a hybrid thing, but they can always mute you. And that's exactly what happened when I was testifying before the State Board of Elections, is they muted me. And I'm here to tell you now, I will always stand up for our elections. I will stand up behind our ballots, and the fraud has got to stop from wherever it came. It needs to stop. And in Cobb County, I expect each and every member of the Board of Elections, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, to stand up for the truth, because it's not a partisan issue. It is a nonpartisan issue. And I think we need to get real, too, on what the definition of voter suppression is. If I vote illegally, and Mr. Gartland, if you vote legally, I have suppressed your vote. Voter suppression is not whether you get pizza when you're standing in line or whether you get a bottle of water standing in line. It's time that people become accountable for themselves, that carry their own water and don't worry about somebody else's water. Metaphorically, figuratively, literally. Cobb County does not need to bear the responsibility for all these people that don't know how to get up out of the bed and go vote. It's time they do it for themselves. And sir, I'll be glad to show you my photos and video, and maybe we can have an understanding. But in the future, it's very disrespectful to sit in a room with people and laugh at them behind their backs. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our list of speakers, public comment time. And our next item on our agenda is the Director's Election Night Report and our certification of the June 15th, 2021 House District 34 special election. Janine?
Thank you, Chairman. All of the board members, and also we had up on the table in the back, have the report from election night. It's titled, one page, it's June 15th, 2021, HD 34 Special Election Report from Election Night. This is what we normally give out to the board to show you just kind of the same data points, election over election, so you can see how we're doing. So the first part talks about the precincts and when the first one came in and the last one came in. So we did have as our last precinct in Pine Mountain 02 at 9:07, and it took us half an hour or so, almost 20 minutes, to upload that precinct at 9:33. So that was the end of the polling's, the poll uploads. And none of the polls left anything behind, which is good. They didn't have to return to get anything crucial. The absentee and early voting, the early voting was uploaded at 7:07 and the mail at 7:49. And then at that point, we were waiting for the polls to come in again until 9:33 when the last poll came in. So it was several, of us felt it was a real early night, being only 17 precincts. We did leave about 10 o'clock. The eligible voters was 42,089. Of those, 7,092 voted for a turnout of 16.85%. The bottom of this report shows you the provisional ballots. There were only 6 provisional ballots issued at the polls. 2 of those we were able to count. And on the bottom part of the report is the mail electronic, which we didn't have for this one. It wasn't a federal election, so there's no electronic ballot delivery, and in person. And of this section, we had 3,129 ballots counted. So if you'll also notice that the mail, we issued 241, and 204 came in by election night, and those were uploaded on election night. And then we had one that was cured after election night. It was a signature mismatch that the voter was able to cure that. And so we had a total of 205 of those. So that's your, yes, you had a question?
Okay. Previously, what were some of the other special elections? Was this a high one or was this a low one?
I did look up the last State House that we had, I'm sorry, State House race was in 2011, I believe, and that was a 7% turnout altogether. So a 16.85 is good for that, considering that, but it's, not a great turnout.
Thank you.
And then also you have with you your election summary report, which is from the election management system. And that is, the regular report that you get from the system that says 17 of 17 precincts. And there are the 4 columns, election day results, the advanced voting, the absentee by mail, and the provisional. So as you can see, we had 3961 vote at the polls, 2,924 voted early, 205 by mail, and provisional were 2 that were counted. So that's the reports for you to review. I did my usual audit of the various different reports that the poll workers bring us and how many were printed on the ballot marking device, how many were cast in the scanner, how many ballots pieces of paper we counted those, and then the poll pad check-ins. And so, validating that each of those categories matched. There were no discrepancies that would indicate that there's any reason for you not to certify this election. So I would ask that the board entertain their motion to certify the election.
Thank you. Yeah. You want to make a motion first? Go ahead and make a motion.
And I'll second it.
All right. I'll move that we accept this report and certify the election results. And you have a second?
Second.
Pat Gartland. And you have a comment, I believe.
I have several comments. One, I'd like to tell Janine that I really appreciate the detail of the reports and how they've increased during my time here on the board, because there are always questions, and having more detail is, I think, assist us as well as assist the public. One of the questions that I had over and over was about the number of rejected absentee applications that we had, and you did provide for me at least, some information on the categories of the rejections. I fully expected them to be based on primarily out-of-district misunderstandings, but could you elaborate on that, and could we consider including some categories on this report as well?
Yes, we did have that on our daily reports to you, I believe, or in emails, and I apologize, I didn't put that on this report, but I can certainly add it. The applications that were submitted for this election, there were some that were submitted too early. We do have voters who submit for every date in the cycle, and they'll do that, early on in the cycle, and some of the later dates, it's too early. And especially going forward with the new law, you have to even shorten that time frame. But there were some that were submitted too early, and there were some that were out of the district. That was the majority of them. And there was 1 or 2 that didn't have a signature. And so they were rejected. The voter is contacted and told what the issue is, and they can resubmit if they are in the district.
Well, that's helpful for me to know.
Okay.
All right, anything else? All right, we have the motion before us. All in favor, please vote aye, and we have a voting button, or you can raise your hand, or both. All right, thank you. All right, that's 5-0 is what I came up with on that. Is that right? Yep. Pat, you didn't push your button. There you go. Okay. Thank you, I appreciate that. All right, Our next item on here is we have a time of public hearing for a change in polling location. And this is to request approval to change the location of the polling place for Clarkdale 02 from Faith Baptist Temple at 5083 Hiram Lithia Springs Road in Powder Springs to the Spirit of Life Church at 4889 Hill Road, Powder Springs.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Hello, everyone.
Go ahead.
The map is up on the screen that reflects our request to approve Clarkdale 02 going from Faith Baptist Temple to a new location of Spirit of Life Church. Faith Baptist Temple notified us in 2020 that they would no longer be available for use of a polling location. However, they did agree to the contract, and they went through the election cycle through January runoff. So now we're in the process of, we've selected a new location.
All right. At this time, do we have anyone in the public to speak concerning this change? All right, hearing none. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion from Fred to approve. And
Second.
we got Darrell as a second there, so we've got that motion second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
I wanted to comment. I want to say,
Oh,
as
excuse me.
usual, I think that over time, that we have taken every opportunity to share with the public that chooses to attend or is able to attend our meetings as much information as possible. And I think having a report like this available and having Brenda explain it helps with communicating with our voters what we're doing, how we're doing it, and possibly why we are doing it. And I find that to be very important. So I want to make that point that moving forward, I hope that we will continue to do everything that we can to communicate with our voters so that they're, regardless of what their opinions are, once they've received the information, that we have made the effort.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right. All in favor, vote yes. There we go. Thank you. All right, that was a 5-0. And our next item that we have is, back to my front page here, is the approval of our minutes. These are the minutes of June 15th, 2021. Those were the minutes taken for the election night meeting. What we have on election night, we have 5 members on the board. We'll have 3 of those members that will meet at our headquarters location on Whitlock Avenue. We'll have 2 members that will meet at our prep center, which is located in Kennesaw. The prep center is where all the ballots are, information is returned from the polls and then is transported down to our office at Whitlock for tabulation and eventually getting it onto the website. And, yes,
Sorry, y'all didn't vote on the minutes.
I'm sorry, what now?
Y'all didn't vote on approval of the minutes.
That's what we're doing now.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm sorry. I was just trying to explain.
On the next item.
No, I'm sorry. No, I was trying to explain on that, what our process is. What I'm saying is we have 3 of our members that meet there, and we had 3 that met on June 15th, and we have our minutes here. It's just a very short meeting, and so I'd like to know if we have a motion to approve those minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I make that motion that we approve these.
Pat, thank you very much. Okay, have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a second? All right. All in favor, please vote yes. All right. There we go. All right, 5-0. All right. Our next item will be our Director of Elections, Janine Eveler.
Thank you, Chairman. The next items are just to put our election board meeting calendar in sync with this new runoff. And so, as you were saying, and I'm sorry, we were confused because we thought you were talking about this item. Because the board does have to observe election night returns, we need a meeting on July 13th at 7 p.m. And so we have a calendar that's attached to your minutes with the new proposed date. And then we also need a regular board meeting to certify on July 19th. And then I think you were going to speak to the assignments for
right.
election night. But if we could approve the new revised calendar, that is, again, that's attached. We do have the certification meetings at 3 p.m. At this time. That was the time that was available for this meeting room. So if we, could probably work with communications to see what else might be available, if we either wanted to switch the days from the Monday, or if we wanted to implement some kind of hybrid, we'll look into that.
All right, but as of right now, that's July 19th. That is what, a Tuesday?
No,
Or
it's
Monday?
it's the
Monday.
same. It's a Monday
Okay.
after the election. And then the 7 p.m. on July 13th is election night, when we would have, as you said, 3 members at the West Park location and 2 members at the Prep Center.
All right, thank you. All right, I'll make a motion that we authorize this new board meeting for July 13th at 7 p.m. at West Park or Whitlock, and also that we request approval to reschedule that July 12th, 21 regular board meeting to July the 19th, 2021, currently at 3 p.m. and possible change on that time. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Fred has a second. All right, do we have any discussion on that? All right, all in favor, please vote. All right. Okay, 5-0, we approve that. Now, our next item here is assigning the members to the locations for election night. At that time, after July 1st, we'll have our new board members who were just sworn in and who we're very glad to welcome to our board, and I'm sure any of these current board members will be ready to help and assist, in transition or information. The board members going off, Fred and I are going off, and Darrell is going off, and we'll have Jessica will remain, and so will Pat Gartland. And the assignment I'm making for Whitlock, the main office, or West Park as it's called, Jessica Brooks and Pat Gartland and Steve Bruning. And for Kennesaw, the Prep Center, Tori Silas and Jennifer Mossbacher. All right, thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Do we have any other business? Okay.
I do. I have one more. I would like to say on some of our past agendas that we've actually had a place for board comment, and I think that that's not on this current agenda. But I would like to say that one of the constants for me has been to ask for the public to actually participate and give public comment so we can hear directly from our public that we serve. Challenge and change, we know, are constant, and we know that we are in for some major changes. I believe that I expect first, and I firmly believe that we will meet those challenges. There are specific things that we have spoken about quite a bit over the years, and that there have been, I don't want to call it concessions made, but adjustments that have been made. They seem to have been very incremental, but we have major changes that I know that we will need. And we definitely know that we need to improve our voter in-person experiences. And as has been said by several people who commented today, we have to make sure that our communication with those members of the public who have a vested interest in elections receive communication in the ways that they digest the communication, and in timely fashion, and to the very best of our ability, accurate information. So those are the comments that I wanted to make at this point, where we would have normally had board comment.
Well, the comments that I'd like to make is to thank all these outgoing board members that have served so diligently and fill the time of your leadership, and we appreciate you and just all of you being here. And it's just an opportunity. This is my second go-round, but y'all have really done, I appreciate all the work that you've put into it, and thank you very much. And
Thank you.
Certainly welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next scheduled board meeting. Yep. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Sure.
So, as you heard, I'm one of the board members that's leaving, and I wanted to thank Janine for being so forthright and, always being able to be reached at any time when I had questions, and everybody on the board for being so welcoming. And I just encourage all the citizens of Cobb County to, be involved and to pay attention to what goes on the Board of Elections. And that's it. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Yes, and I wanted to comment too about my appreciation for the work that Janine has done, as well as Greg and what he's done, and the other board members that have served during this time. And we appreciate all that help that we've received in this. And all of the election staff has always been willing to help us answer questions, try to work through problems in response to communications that we have received from the public. And of course, if you go to our website, there's a lot of information there. Part of that information are the board members. And on it, it will give an email address and phone number that those board members can be reached on. And I know over the years, I've received some emails and some phone calls as well. And sometimes it's some really good information for us and helps us to solve problems before they get bigger. I appreciate that. Any other comments? All right, we have our next scheduled board meeting, which we've just authorized here. And we have the July 13th, 2021, which is a Tuesday, 7 p.m. That's a meeting to observe the election returns. And the July 19th, 2021 at 3 p.m. and that will be a regular certification meeting for those returns that come in that night. All right. Now we would make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd
Yeah.
like a motion to go into executive session to discuss litigation, pending litigation. And I would ask that you invite the 3 new board members to remain.
Okay.
The
You
3
mean
new
to
ones.
be with us in the
They can be with us. You can
Okay,
invite
that's
them
fine.
in, but I just think it'd be
Sure.
worth their while
Sure.
to hear.
All right. All right. I make a motion that we go into executive session for the discussion that Greg has already mentioned.
Second.
Have a second? Okay.
Did our new board
Any
members hear
discussions?
that?
I don't know. Did y'all all hear it? Good. All right, good. Thanks. All right. All in favor, please vote yes. All right. We'll now be going into executive session. All right. Pat,
Make a motion that we convene,
all right. Did we move?
Motion to come out of executive
come out of executive session.
All right, I'll second that. All right, all in favor, please vote yes. All right.
Telling us how to vote.
Well, if you want to vote yeah, if you're in favor. If you're not in favor, you vote no. All right, so we're back into regular time. And I think there was some discussion, I believe, that you had with him about the
Sunshine Law.
I
Sunshine Law.
had a question about just a quick synopsis of Sunshine Law.
And Greg can answer these too, but just as a reminder, now that we're back, on public record, just as I was saying, we can only discuss litigation or whatever reason you've gone into executive session for in executive session, and then if there are questions that are just more public, even if they're legal questions, if they're not about a specific matter, then they need to be discussed out in the open. And so just in terms of open records and sunshine laws, that's really broken down into two things. That's the Open Meetings Act in Georgia, and the Open Meetings Act gives requirements about when you have to have meetings advertised, when the agendas have to be published, things like that. But basically, for your purposes, you need to know that anytime there's a quorum of this board gathered, which is, so in this case, 3 members or more, to discuss issues germane to this board, then that's a public meeting that notice needs to be given. And Janine does a good job of setting the stage for the meetings at every month and keeping the calendar in order, but every now and then there will be a need for an emergency meeting, and we have to give as much notice for those. There are certain provisions that allow for a certain number of meetings to be held by teleconference or things like that, but the general gist of the open meetings law is that all meetings of this board where there's a quorum present have to be in public, and the only things that are allowed to be discussed in private session are matters of pending litigation, real estate acquisition or disposition, or personnel. And so that's the open meetings half. The other portion of it is open records, and that basically as an agency of, you're really deemed an agency of the state. The county is a department of the state, and you're a department of the county. And so all communications with staff, or with other members of the public, really, through whatever lines that you have established for dealing, communications that you're having with people about issues of elections and registration are subject to open records requests. And in elections, there's some pretty specific carve-outs for for items that are not, disclosed to the public in terms of, we don't turn over ballots. We protect the secrecy of ballots. We don't turn over, official election tapes or things like that. But communications between the board and staff and between the board and members of the public would be subject to open records requests. Most of those requests, and Janine can correct me if this has changed, but most of those requests, just for efficiency purposes, go through the county. And they just, rather than bother us, Greg and I, with those, they all come in through the county clerk a lot of times anyways, so it's just more efficient to go through the county. But when it involves something, anytime you get an open records request, either directly or Janine passes one on to you or staff passes one on to you, if it seems to be involving a matter that's in litigation, let us know, because the attorneys or whoever's requesting it is supposed to give us a copy. They're supposed to let us know what they're asking for. But again, as I think I mentioned, if you copy counsel on it, then it's privileged. It gets attorney-client privilege under Georgia law, and that's not required to be disclosed. But always check with us first before you just tell somebody, no, you can't have it, because we have to make sure it. But Janine's gonna, and staff will coordinate with you. You're not really responsible for, collecting all those records. We'll let you know when they need to be submitted and what we're looking for and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. But as a public board and a public authority, then you are subject to open records requests, and that can be everything from, unfortunately, these days, just about any platform you have on your phone, but that's why, we say, it's pretty wise. And Janine, do they have Board of Elections accounts?
Yeah, I was just going to mention, I let all of them know that we are setting them up with a cobbcounty.org email address, and so do all of the board business on that email platform. We have the email set up. I just have to get you the documentation of how to log on and all of that, but I'll be getting that to you before your term starts.
And so all that to say, feel free to, don't worry about your Gmail or whatever your personal account is being, subject to an open records request unless you somehow find yourself on vacation and you're emailing staff. If you have a friend or a neighbor that submits an election question and you want to get it to staff, I suggest you say, hey, this is my personal email account. I'd like for you to use my, Cobb Board of Elections email account, and that will, keep you from having to somebody to search your index of your personal email account or things like that. So Greg and I do the best we can to sort of screen things when it gets to lawsuits. When they ask for communications, we make sure they're only getting things that are germane and that are relevant and that are allowed to be disclosed. But there may be times in these federal lawsuits where your records are requested, and sometimes they don't come through. Sometimes they don't come through the court. Sometimes they come through open records requests. But we have just one very short primer on the county has 3 days to respond to an open records request, and that doesn't mean there's 3 days to get all the records. That just means 3 days for the county to say, this is what we think we have, this is how much we think it's going to cost to get it to you, and this is how long we expect it to take to gather all the records. And then from that point, staff takes it from there, and we'll let you know if there's anything that they would need from you as board members. But in general, most 90-something% of open records requests are never going to go further than the department, and they're just going to be internal records that they're requesting. And Janine is probably more aware of the deadlines even than I am, because she deals with them on an everyday basis.
Every day. Could you repeat those 4 categories of the Open Meetings Act? You mentioned litigation. You had said that before to us, real estate, and there were 2 others.
Sure. Well, it was three categories: real estate acquisition and disposition. But that's not really this board.
Yeah,
this board won't have anything to consider on that front. And then pending litigation and personnel.
Personnel. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anything else? All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. All right, Darrell seconded. All in favor, please vote yes. There we go. Okay. Thank you. I certainly enjoyed serving on the board with all of you folks, and
Certainly we did.
I hope you folks have as interesting a time as we did. Yeah, like I said, anytime we can give you any information or help, let us know.